how a jet airline works. Let's go.
I'm Jake O'Neill, creator of Animagraphs, and this is how a jet airliner works.
Please tell me it's going to be very complicated, so we need a lot of time, so be ready for this.
Let's
like
start
30 minutes.
with the airframe.
Fuselage.
Thousands of specially formed, damage-resistant panels are riveted or otherwise attached to a lightweight underlying base called the airframe.
But they are very thin,
The
right?
panels and frame together make a very strong, relatively lightweight craft. Many of these parts, especially the outer panels, are made from a carbon fiber reinforced material, though traditional aluminum and
I thought
aluminum
it's like
alloys
some kind of
are
aluminium.
also used. Vertical frames underpin the cross-sectional tube shape, connected by longerons that stretch from nose to tail. And in between these, a vast network of stringers, intercostals, and subframes. At the nose, the radome shields a weather radar antenna beneath, while allowing specific radio frequencies to pass through for proper functioning.
That's the nose.
A double-layered bird strike barrier is situated behind that. Floor beams attach to frames and support the floor panels. Higher grade panels are used in high traffic areas and the cockpit or flight deck, with lower grade panels beneath passenger seating areas. Pressure bulkheads are reinforced metal barriers that separate pressurized from non-pressurized areas of the plane. Humans are accustomed to about 14 psi of air pressure.
So this is the
Passenger
back.
planes
You
generally
can't go
fly
back.
between 31 and 38,000
wow.
feet above sea level, where air pressure is a meager 4 psi or lower.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
As such, most sections of the airplane are pressurized while in flight. These areas include the flight deck
Only
and
what in
passenger
blue
areas,
have like
equipment
pressure
bays,
or air to
and
breathe.
cargo compartments. Unpressurized areas are the radome, landing gear bays, the center wing box, and the tail
So
cone.
people going to the landing wheel area and they are still sometimes
The wings
alive
attach
somehow.
near the center of the aircraft. A center wing box ties wing frames together with the fuselage. The keel beam offers additional support.
How the hell this is holding together in the air? This is
A
Jesus.
wing-to-body fairing attaches to the keel beam and a pair of external longerons to enclose
That's
and
crazy.
further strengthen this critical wing attach point. Sturdy yet flexible spars stretch from the center wing box to the wing tip, one at the leading edge and one at the trailing edge of the wing. A pylon juts out from the wing frame to support the
The
jet
thing
engine.
that's holding the jet engine.
Titanium links extend from the wing to the pylon, and tension bolts mate aluminum and titanium plates for an incredibly strong and flexible connection.
It's because this is what moving the plane, so all the grip needs to be
Moving
there.
to the rear or aft of the plane, we see the vertical and horizontal stabilizers
Also
with
titanium.
their additional frame supports,
Or not really.
and the tail cone, which houses the auxiliary power unit, or APU.
Yeah, that's the... what is it? I thought I knew what is APU.
Windows.
Well,
The
let me guess.
windshields and side
Reinforced.
windows are made from 3 layers of chemically strengthened glass,
Yeah.
covered with an anti-static coating.
Would it survive a bullet fire? Fire bullet? Gunshot?
Cabin windows maintain the structural integrity of the fuselage with a thick outer pane made from acrylic. There's an additional protective acrylic pane on the passenger side with a hole and an air gap for pressure and temperature equalization.
The hole in the window that you
Doors.
always think, what is it for? It's for the pressure.
There are passenger doors front and rear with corresponding service doors on the starboard side.
Emergency of doors, no.
Cargo access doors are also on the starboard underside.
Yeah.
Smaller overwing emergency doors are located just above each wing. Doors must be disarmed before opening so the emergency slide will not deploy. An overpressure light, visible from the inside and outside the door, indicates whether the pressure differential would permit safe opening.
If it's safe to open the door. because of
A
the
vent
pressure.
panel enables pressure equalization. Turning the interior latch handle allows the door to be opened. There's also an externally accessible door latch. The door rides on a hinge arm to swing out and away from the plane body,
Not in all planes, yeah?
with stabilizer bars to guide its path.
It's so complicated. Jesus, it's just a door.
Wings and flight control surfaces. The wings generate lift for the aircraft. The main surfaces for flight control are the ailerons, elevators, and rudder. The ailerons generally function opposite one another to roll the plane.
This is called roll, yeah. This direction.
Elevators affect forward to back pitch,
Pitch. Roll and
and the rudder controls yaw, or
Yaw,
rotation
yeah.
around the vertical axis.
that's it. Nothing more.
The entire horizontal stabilizer, which the elevators are attached to,
This
can be
part over
rotated
here
to hold the plane at a
made
particular
a lot of
attitude
issues in some airplanes
and leave the
and
elevators
caused
for finer
crashing.
adjustments.
Not
To
in a lot
achieve
of
this,
planes, in
the
few planes.
stabilizer is attached to a motorized device that can move up or down
In
a
reality,
threaded
it's moving
rod.
really slow.
Secondary flight control surfaces assist these primary systems. On the wing, leading edge slats and trailing edge flaps make up what is known as the high lift flight system. Both slats and flaps extend outward from the wing in a curved downward motion,
I
which
also think
dramatically
there is
alters
something
wing
here for
shape
icing,
to
I
allow
think.
for a much steeper climb angle, while also mitigating the chances of a stall for takeoff and while climbing to cruising altitude. The curved slat supports ride on gears driven by a line of connected shafts back to the slat power drive unit.
What the hell is that?
For the flaps,
Yeah.
a flap carriage
is
rolls outwards
hiding all
driven by
the
its
machinery
actuator arm
here.
as the supporting
Like the
flap
mechanical
track beam
stuff.
lowers. A row of multifunction spoilers is situated at the wing's trailing edge to assist the ailerons with roll control. Special ground spoilers near the fuselage operate in sync for a lift dumping effect, creating downforce during landing to effectively stick the plane to the runway, slow the plane down, and put weight on the wheels for wheel braking. Along
Basically
the
air
wingtip and
brakes.
winglet, there are static dischargers, which are flexible metal rods that discharge built-up static electricity that builds from friction as the plane travels through the air.
Wow.
Landing gear. A strengthened portion of the wing has attachments for the main landing gear, which is tucked inside the wing and body during flight.
That's crazy that they build that.
A hydraulic
It's
retraction
insane.
actuator is attached to the main landing gear strut in such a way to rotate the gear into position for landing.
Boom.
Bearing doors pivot with the rotating action. When the landing gear is fully deployed, a hinged side brace and locking stay with its own actuator keep landing gear locked firmly in place. These components unlock and fold with the landing gear for stowing.
That's crazy.
The nitrogen and oil-filled struts also act as shock absorbers during landing, with an
You can
attached
still feel
hydraulic
the
shimmy
landing
damper
when it's
to
landing
reduce
hard.
shimmy or shaking that occurs while under extreme landing forces.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
There's a heavy-duty carbon brake stack in each wheel. Rotors match with keys on the inside of the wheel so they rotate together. Stators are keyed to the axle and are stationary.
Even that is complicated. I thought it's just a
During
wheel.
braking, electrically driven pistons compress the stack, and the resulting friction slows the plane down.
Wow. So it's like a reverse engine. Electricity. Wow.
The nose landing gear has slightly smaller tires and brakes than the main landing gear, and operates in a similar way with the addition of a rack and pinion steering system.
The engine's gonna be complicated.
Animographs already has an existing video about the inner workings of a jet engine. So for this video, we'll focus on the engine's relationship to airplane function overall. The rear of the engine case or cowling houses the thrust reverser assembly, which reverses fan thrust to slow the plane down just after touchdown, reducing wear to other landing parts and allowing shorter landing distances.
Also braking.
The cowling exterior is a translating sleeve that moves backwards, pulling a ring of connected flaps into an angled position to block and reverse the normal path of thrust.
Slowing the plane.
Auxiliary power unit.
No?
The APU is a backup power source that can supply energy to things like cabin air conditioning, cockpit avionics, and so on when the plane is grounded and not yet connected to an airport power source.
I saw this somewhere.
The APU also provides power to the main engines for starting. Pressurized air from the APU turns a small turbine device at the engine, which rotates the main gearbox and engine internals, starting the fuel and airflow process on which jet engines function. The APU itself is a gas generator that runs on principles similar to the core of a jet engine.
Wow. So there is a jet engine
has an
inside a
electric
jet
battery-powered starter. Air is drawn in through a port at the rear of the plane.
That's crazy. It's also
It's mixed with fuel and ignited, and the resulting combustion drives a turbine to pressurize more air for various purposes.
So it's a
or
small
run an
electricity
electric generator.
plant inside a plane.
The APU exhausts out the back of the plane.
I didn't know it. I
Fuel.
thought it's always like smoke from the
center
other
box
engines.
and most of the internal
So now
wing
I know
area
it's not.
form a giant system of fuel tanks.
Yeah, all of the fuel in the
The
wings.
main containers are the left, center, and right fuel tanks.
That's crazy.
This plane can hold a maximum 5,681 gallons of fuel,
That's crazy.
weighing in at 38,350 pounds. The same ribs that provide wing structure become baffles with cutouts that let the fuel travel through the tank but also avoid excessive sloshing. Fuel enters through a port in one wing. A refuel-defuel panel in the wing-to-body fairing controls the fueling process and also shows fuel levels.
What is the fuel? Like taking fuel
Shut-off
from the
valves
plane?
automatically open and close to ensure tanks are evenly filled. To greatly reduce fire risk,
Well, it
normal
makes sense
air in
to
fuel
have the
tanks
fuel.
is replaced with nitrogen-rich air after refueling is complete. Bleed air valves on the main engines siphon off pressurized air, which is then cooled and passed through an air separation module to remove some of the oxygen, leaving a more nitrogen-rich product, which is then pumped into the fuel tanks. Surge tanks at the end of each wing act as vents for the main and center tanks, and have a NACA-style scoop that forces air into the tanks during flight, keeping positive pressure on the fuel system while allowing pressure changes depending on the
this is so
elevation of the plane
complicated,
and the
it's
temperature
crazy.
of the fuel. These scoops also allow air to escape from the system during refueling. One-way flapper valves allow fuel to flow back into the main tanks, but not in reverse. The main fuel pump is located inside the jet engine casing, attached to a gearbox, which is powered by the jet engine.
Yeah.
Smaller collector tanks in each wing remain constantly full to provide uninterrupted fuel supply to the engine.
Steady.
To
Steady
accomplish
speed,
this,
steady fuel.
many supporting fuel pumps work to transfer fuel as necessary from the center and wing tanks. These pumps, called motive flow pumps, work by pressure alone, without moving mechanical parts, for simplicity and reliability. Fuel from the
Simplicity, no,
engine-mounted
that's not
main
simple.
pump flows through a nozzle into a narrowing tube creating lower pressure in the chamber behind the nozzle,
That's crazy.
which sucks up
Complicated.
fuel into the stream. Electrical boost pumps in each wing can act as a backup if other pumps fail. During normal operation, motive flow pumps transfer fuel from the center tank to main wing tanks to collector tanks and then to the engine.
Oh my god, this is so complicated. It's just the fuel system. Oh my god.
Air management. While in flight, pressurized air for crew and passenger spaces is collected from both the low and high pressure
Yeah, I know that
compressors inside
the
the
air
engine
to
through
breathe
bleed
comes
air
from the
valves.
engines. I heard about it.
This hot bleed air is cooled with outside air through ram air ducts in the wing-to-body fairing before proceeding through the climate control system for further processing as needed. There's also a low-pressure ground connection for hooking up to an external air conditioning source while grounded.
That's nice.
A network of air outlet tubes connects the system to cabin controls above each seat and in other areas of the plane. There are equalization valves between pressurized
Disgusting
compartments
air we
to
are breathing
maintain
in a plane.
equilibrium, and an outflow valve on the pressure bulkhead behind the forward cargo compartment. Hot bleed air is also used in the anti-ice and fog system. Perforated piccolo tubes in the wing slats use bleed air to melt ice.
I knew it. I said before. It's the ice.
The air exhausts out the back of the slat. The front engine cowl is heated with hot bleed air and has small exhaust slots at the bottom. Windshields and side windows in the cockpit have a heating film between layers of glass. Electrical. There are 2 electrical equipment bays in the underside of the plane's body. The forward equipment bay is just behind the flight deck,
Can you reach
and
there
the mid-equipment
during
bay
flight?
is tucked behind the wings.
You can't. Like only in the movies.
These bays are filled with a dizzying array of electronics, computers, etc. to run the many systems on this complex airplane.
Who is checking it and when?
Generators attached to each engine are the main source of electrical power.
Oh,
The APU can provide backup power. 3 separate electrical power centers control distribution to critical systems like landing gear, the high lift flight system, brakes, tire pressure monitors, and many more. There are 2 primary flight control computers in the forward equipment bay, with backup alternate flight computers in the mid-equipment bay. Hydraulics. There are
what
3
makes
separate hydraulic
flaps
systems.
move?
Systems 1 and 2 are redundant in case one system fails. The third system operates only in emergencies. The base components for System 1 are nestled in the port side wing-to-body fairing. System 2 mirrors this arrangement, but on the starboard side. Hydraulic actuators, fitted in tight, small spaces, run many critical flight control surfaces. For example, the spoilers, elevators, rudder, and so on. There are often multiple actuators to operate a surface, connected to separate hydraulic systems, again for redundancy.
Does this
Hydraulic
making
system
you
1 controls the
more or
upper
less
rudder
scared
actuator,
to fly now
left
that you
elevator
know
outboard actuator,
how complicated
left
it is,
thrust reverser,
like the plane?
left and right multifunction spoilers 1 and 3, the flap power drive unit,
Well, it
left
works.
and right flap brake,
So it works.
left and right ground spoilers, and landing gear. Hydraulic system 2 powers the middle rudder actuator, the right elevator outboard actuator, right thrust reverser, the right and left multifunction spoiler 4, the left
I lost
aileron
him. I
outboard
don't know what's going
actuators,
on. There are
nose
flaps
wheel steering,
and
the slat power drive unit, and the left and right slat brakes. Emergency System 3 can power the lower rudder actuator, left and right elevator inboard actuators, left and right multifunction spoiler number 2, left and right aileron inboard actuators, left and right slat and flap brakes, and the ram air turbine stow actuator. water, and waste. This plane has 3 bathrooms, one up front behind the flight deck, and 2 at the back. There are also sinks at the forward and rear galley stations. Pumps pull water from a 42-gallon tank anchored under the rear floor panels. A heated blanket and heated water lines keep the water from freezing.
Oh, that's so complicated,
A
even
water
for
heater near
bathroom.
each sink passes hot water through a water mixer to regulate faucet temperature. Gray water from the sinks is drained through heated gray water drain masts at the front and mid-rear of the plane's underside. Gray water drains in flight and evaporates in air.
What?
In flight and mid-rear of the plane is drained through heated gray water drain masts at the front and mid-rear of the plane's underside. Gray water drains in flight and evaporates in air.
I don't get it. The piss, when somebody's
Black
taking the
water
piss,
from onboard
they're just
toilets
releasing
is
into the
stored
air.
in a waste tank and emptied after landing. Both air
Okay,
and
maybe
water
not.
are separated from waste as it enters the tank.
Alright, good to know.
At altitudes below 16,000 feet, a vacuum generator creates suction to pull waste into the tank. Above 16,000 feet, the vacuum generator is bypassed, and the pressure difference inside and outside the plane creates the necessary suction
Wow.
forces.
That's crazy.
Emergency systems. The forward and aft galley stations have first aid kits, flashlights, fire extinguishers, crew life vests, megaphones, and portable oxygen cylinders that provide 15 minutes of oxygen to crew members. Oxygen generators are positioned above each row of seats. If the cabin loses pressurization, masks deploy, and a
We know
chemical
that, we
reaction
know that.
generates about 13 minutes of oxygen. An emergency locator transmitter automatically activates if a crash is detected. This transmitter emits a signal that can be used to help locate the aircraft. An aircraft identification module provides the location transmitter with aircraft
Let's not be in this
data.
situation where you need that.
Door-mounted slides are packed into a bottom compartment in each passenger and service door. A lever in the door arms the slides so that it will deploy when the door is opened by attaching itself to the door sill and deflating. The overwing emergency exit doors are always armed, and an escape slide will deploy from a special compartment near the rear of the wing when the door is opened. In the event of full
I know what is
electrical
that.
power failure,
Yeah, this is a
a
backup
ram air
generator.
turbine, or RAT, deploys automatically and works like a tiny windmill,
Yeah,
using the plane's movement through the air to generate
can
emergency
make
electrical power.
a bit of electricity in the air.
RAT power keeps emergency and landing gear systems active and provides power to emergency hydraulic system number 3.
It's crazy.
There are temperature-sensitive fire detection loops around each engine and the APU with spherical fire extinguishing bottles nearby. The equipment bays have smoke detectors, and cargo compartments have smoke detectors and fire extinguishing bottles. A flight data recorder monitors and records the last
That's the
50
black box.
hours of operational data and can hold 25 hours in its crash survivable memory unit. It has an underwater locator beacon that emits a signal for 90 days. An aircraft health management system stores maintenance data and monitors things like gust, turbulence, and hard landing conditions. Crew areas. There are front and rear galley areas with folding crew seats. The flight deck door is made of sturdy materials and has a bulletproof insert with a bullet-resistant peephole
I
to the
wonder
passenger
why.
cabin. The door latch prevents opening when pressure is applied from the passenger side. A keypad allows flight attendants to request entry into the flight
I
deck.
wonder why is
There's
that.
an override code for emergency access. Surveillance cameras monitor the area just outside the flight deck door. Stay tuned to the Animagraphs channel, as we'll be producing a companion
That
video
was
to this
crazy.
one covering
Wow,
the
I learned a lot.
staggeringly detailed
That's
flight
so
deck
complicated.
in full.
It's a miracle we stay up in the sky flying. Wow, what
External
a good...
lighting and antennas.
Oh, I thought we are done. We are not
Navigation
done. There are
lights
lights.
for aircraft visibility are installed in pairs in case a bulb burns out, with green lights on the right wingtip, red lights on the left, and white lights at the tail.
So you know the direction of the plane.
Red flashing beacon lights and white strobe lights help aircraft avoid colliding with one another. There are flood lamps to illuminate the airplane logo and side lamps for wing inspections while on the ground.
Wow.
Lights on the left and right wing-to-body fairing and on the nose landing gear illuminate the runway during takeoff and landing. Taxi lights illuminate the area around the airplane while on the ground. The weather radar antenna performs multiple radar scans at different tilt angles. Antennas line the fuselage for things like radio communication to ground stations, collision avoidance and air traffic surveillance, GPS, a Ku-band antenna for internet access, and more.
Wow. That is crazy. Look at that. So complicated. One of the most complicated things humans ever invented is the plane. Wow, that is insane.